Hello friends, welcome to LeggLife. Obviously we're back home. The cruise is over. It was unbelievable. You guys have watched hours and hours and hours of our experience. Thank you. Over the week on the Seabourn Odyssey. And so now we wanted to make a video that might be a little bit of a long one, where we are going to deep dive into the entire experience.
Full recap.
Kind of a full recap, touching on lots of different areas, giving you sort of our honest review on what the experience was like. Who do we think Seabourn is for? Is it for us? Would we do it again? Are we ruined for other cruise lines? We've gotten that question a whole bunch. And so in this video, we're just going to deep dive into the entire Seabourn experience.
Throughout the week on the cruise, we were kind of keeping notes of things we wanted to make sure we remembered to touch on in this recap video. So I think we're just gonna dive in.
We are. In fact, we're just gonna start right off the bat with kind of our overall thoughts.
Yeah.
We thought about saving these to the end, but it's pointless. Sherri, you first.
It was far and above everything I was expecting it to be. It met and exceeded every expectation.
Basically the exact same. It was very different from previous experiences. In fact, we've struggled to even compare it to Disney and Princess, the two lines we've cruised before, because it feels like there's no comparison. This wasn't just a nice version of those cruises.
Right.
This was a completely different experience.
Right.
It felt that way in almost every way. So, was it a ship on the water? Yes. But I
don't really think that it's fair to compare Seabourn to any other cruise line that we have cruised.
There's not a comparison.
There's just not a comparison.
It was the best cruise, far and away, we have ever done.
Yeah.
Not even a close second.
Right.
It was the kind of thing that we absolutely want to do again. We'll talk more about that in the future. But 10 of 10 feels like too light of a rating.
I agree. Like, I don't think it even deserves like the same scale.
That's how we feel about it. So let's just jump into it. And you guys will see more about that. Let's start with the stateroom.
Yeah.
So all of the staterooms on Seabourn are ocean-facing suites. Now, we have heard that they do have some staterooms that aren't a veranda, that actually have like an ocean view, but they have no inside staterooms.
Right.
So everything was had a veranda.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on our stateroom?
It was huge for a ship stateroom. So much storage. I think we used half, maybe a quarter of the actual amount of storage that was available in that room.
Yeah.
And we packed almost everything that we own. So, like, there was so much storage.
Yeah, I think that part of the reason for that, and you'll hear some of this in future kind of things we're going to touch on, people who cruise Seabourn, so what we're used to is you book a 7-night itinerary, and at the beginning of the 7 nights, almost everybody gets on the ship, with the exception of a few people maybe who are doing a back-to-back, and then at the end of the 7 nights, everybody gets off the ship.
Right.
That was not the case at Seabourn. I didn't expect that.
No.
We were in the minority getting off the ship.
Yeah.
Most people on our ship, on our cruise, were staying on for another 7 nights, 21 nights, months. There were people on our ship who had been there for months.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, these staterooms have to be able to be almost like a temporary home for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Just because the clientele is so different. Which, when you're only on there for 7 nights, is amazing because it's designed for much longer stays.
Right. Very comfortable. Hands down, the most comfortable cruise bed we've ever slept in.
We've never had an uncomfortable cruise bed.
We've never had an uncomfortable cruise bed, but this was the most comfortable of all of the other comfortable beds.
Having the pillow menu, being able to choose like, oh, what do I want? How can
I wish that I had like played with that a little bit more.
Ordered additional pillows?
Yep.
Next cruise, we'll have to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, the stateroom was amazing. We loved the floor we were on. We were on deck 7, which was the deck where Seabourn Square was, and that was where the coffee shop was. They had like the little kind of snacks and food, gift shops.
Library.
The library was there. And so...
a big deck right out there that you could kind of view everything from, so...
Yeah, we're just up the hall from elevators, and so it felt like we could get anywhere in the ship in a couple of minutes.
Right. I mean, mostly because of where we were located. Like, we were kind of right, like, centrally very located. But it was also, the ship was small.
Which was nice. We'll touch on that.
Small.
We'll touch on that a little bit later. The bathroom, amazing. I mean, you guys, bathroom, amazing. The walk-in closet, amazing. The bed, amazing. The couch, amazing. I will say,
I loved having a table in the room and not having to use, like, the little tiny coffee table for room service and everything. Yeah,
I did too. We did not really use our veranda to the extent I thought we would.
Agreed.
We were out there every day. We went out there, regardless of weather. I sat out there more than you did.
Yep.
But this was kind of confusing. It was almost like the public areas were so nice and void of people and noise.
Right.
That
I, even as the introvert and one who stays in the room the most, found myself wanting to actually sit anywhere else on the ship. Like, everywhere you went on the ship, there was ample spaces to sit, very comfortable chairs, or couches, or recliners, or massaging chairs
with blankets.
Like, everything was just so comfortable that I found myself actually wanting to be out in those public spaces more than just sitting in our room.
That was a big surprise to me because you were so nervous, and we'll talk about this later, going into this cruise for a lot of reasons, that I really did expect you to be in the room the majority of the time.
I kind of did too.
And you were not in the room at all. Neither of us really were.
Right.
And so that was very surprising. I think it also helped that the size of the ship and the number of people on the ship was so small and intimate that even in, like, Glacier Bay, when normally you'd be like, oh, I want to be on my veranda, we were a little bit, but it was so fun to be out with the few other people.
Right.
Kind of, like, looking at things and seeing things and doing it together.
And because of the size of the ship, there was always somewhere to stand outside and view the glaciers, which is not always the case on some of these bigger ships with lots more people.
Good point. Additional stateroom. Let's talk. I know we're going to talk about service later, but while we're talking about stateroom, let's talk about our stateroom attendants.
I'm biased, but I think that we had the best and the prettiest stateroom attendants.
They were so nice.
They were so great.
This video is so difficult to make. And here's why. Because I wanted to say, you guys, it is beyond whatever you imagine. It is the best experience you will ever have at sea.
Go book one.
Go book one, because you will never regret it. It is so far, if you've cruised Disney concierge, cool. This, way above that.
Way better, yep.
And so, like, whatever you've done, like, do Seabourn.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say. And then just, like, end the video. But I know that there's a lot of details we want to share.
Yeah.
But the stateroom host, the attention to detail, they didn't for us, we never asked this, but one of the things that we learned is that they will draw a bath for you. If you're like, hey, you know what, we're getting back from the Indian Islands at like 10 a.m. and Sherri's going to be really cold, would you mind having a bath ready? They will not only draw a bath for you, they will fill it with rose petals and like bath soap and stuff.
I'm a little bummed we didn't do that, and I'm actually shocked that you didn't take a bath. You love baths.
And I never took one.
A very small bathtub here at home.
The bathtub on the ship was bigger than ours at home.
Yeah.
But
it was a good soaking tub.
But the service and the care and the way that they just made us feel so unbelievably special.
Yeah.
And here's what I loved. When we would see them around the ship, our stateroom attendants, we would see them around the ship at like a couple different events. They would always, just like from across the room, just like wave big smiles.
Yep.
I've never experienced that.
And again, like, I mean, to harken back to other cruise lines, we've never had bad stateroom hosts. We've never had anybody that's like, ugh. We've always had excellent stateroom hosts, but man,
it's another level.
It's just that next step. Right?
Okay. Any other thoughts on stateroom? It was.
Oh my gosh, I miss the bathroom.
I know. I miss a walk-in closet.
The floor was marble. The walls were marble. The ceiling was like everything was marble.
They give you slippers.
Beautiful. They give you slippers. Oh gosh, I loved the dual sinks because we do not have dual sinks in our bathroom.
You guys saw the bottles of liquor. Like there was a full-size bottle of gin because that's what we wanted. Full-size bottle of Jameson because that's what we wanted. If you're a wine drinker, you can be like, you know what, can I get a bottle of red and a bottle of white every single day? And they'll bring you a bottle of red and a bottle of white in your room every single day, and it's included in the price.
Right.
It's insane.
You don't pay extra for it.
No. So, that's actually one thing I want to, let's move on to food. And while you are talking about food, I have something I want to type and because I want to not forget this.
Okay.
How was the food?
The food was amazing. So we have eaten at like the specialty restaurants on Disney and Princess. Every meal in the main dining was that level of food and service, and we'll talk about the service later, but like, I mean, the standard of the dishes was amazing.
So the way that it kind of works is in the evening, there's one restaurant called The Restaurant. And that's where it's basically open from 7 to 9. And you don't have to have a set time. You just show up. And
you keep talking because I just remember something I want to talk about.
This is so funny. And so you show up, and day number 2, we show up, and the hostess out front, Mr. and Mrs. Legg, welcome.
And room 712.
Room 712. She knew our room, right?
I'm still learning my room number.
they knew our stuff before we knew it.
Right.
They were like, would you like to dine privately together tonight, or would you like to sit with somebody else? Would you like to sit with other people? So every single night, if you want to sit by yourself, you can. You don't have to sit with other people.
Right.
And I know on some other cruise lines, you kind of like put in a request and you hope you get. It's like, well, we want to sit by ourselves. There was no wondering. If you want to sit by yourself, you're sitting by yourself.
Right.
Which was great for us.
Yeah, there was never times we were like, nope.
So at dinner, there's the restaurant, and then there are other venues kind of around the ship if you don't want that experience.
Right.
But they are during a set time. That being said, room service is 24 hours.
Yeah.
And the room service food was amazing.
Yeah.
They would come in, and I think we showed this on a couple of vlogs, they come in with a full linen tablecloth, and they ask, would you like me to set up your table?
And they would fully set the table up if you wanted.
If you wanted, they will fully like lay out.
Cutlery and everything.
It doesn't matter if you ordered a charcuterie platter or burgers or hot dogs or a steak. They will make your room feel like your own private dining space.
Right.
And so room service was amazing. The snacks in the Seabourn, I almost said International Cafe, like on Princess. Snacks in the Seabourn Square, little sandwiches, pastries, gelato.
Oh God, the gelato
was so good.
It was so good. And they changed the gelato out every day. There was always 4 options, and it changed every day. So there was always something that you would like.
Yeah.
There was always multiple things that we liked.
I think what Sherri said was exactly right. The normal food on the ship felt like the elevated, like specialty dining on most ships.
Yeah.
And the buffet food felt like main dining restaurant stuff.
Yeah.
So the buffet breakfast felt more like what you'd get at like a sit-down breakfast on another ship.
They had like full carving stations for... I never stopped there, but they had. I
think most ships have full carving at their buffet,
okay.
But the difference is that the quality. What's that?
I don't ever stop.
You're not a carving station girl. I normally do stop.
Yeah.
The stations were just better. The food was just better. It was better quality. It didn't taste like. I think you guys will know what I mean when I say this. It didn't taste like buffet food.
And I will say, every buffet was like, or at least the breakfast buffet. I never tried it for the lunch, but the breakfast buffet was also like Paulo, where you can get the buffet and order from the menu if you want. So
yes, there's additional things that you can get that aren't out on the buffet if you want to order off a menu.
But you're not paying extra for it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And they'll show up and they'll order you if you want a drink. It's like, oh, welcome to breakfast. You want Irish coffee? You want a mimosa? Do you want champagne? Do you want what are we doing? And so the food was really amazing.
Yeah.
I thought I might dislike a little the limited amount of time, like dinner's like a 2-hour window for dinner.
7 to 9 every night.
I didn't, and it surprised me because we went into this cruise thinking the clientele was going to be much, much older than us, which a lot of it was.
There were quite a few people our age and close to our age.
But 7 to 9 is kind of late for dinner.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It worked perfect for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, my gosh, I thought food was just unbelievable. I will say, let's talk sushi for a second.
Oh my gosh.
We're sushi snobs.
We're sushi snobs, and this was so good. was it the third night maybe? We went for the first time, and then it just became an every night thing. Like, we just had to go get our sashimi, and you got like a roll. Oh my gosh, it was so good.
So one of my
The chefs back there were phenomenal and so friendly every time.
One of the things about cruise food, we've talked about this on a lot of different vlogs, is that it's really good for cruise food, like for vacation food, right?
Right.
But if it was a restaurant at home, nobody's going to it, right? For the most part, like that's a little bit different. I think Palo on Disney Cruise Line, if Palo was a restaurant for that price, I would go.
Yeah.
But for the most part, most other cruise restaurants, if it's at home, like it doesn't compare to anything we have here.
Right. Yeah.
We have great sushi in Anchorage.
We have great sushi, and that was...
Yeah, I would go. If that was a sushi restaurant in Anchorage, I would go.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised to say that.
Yeah, it was so good. Oh gosh, that barbecue eel.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. The Thomas Keller we went to on the last night, which is it's a specialty dining, but it is not an upcharge. It's included in the price.
Right.
And it was really good, but not noticeably different than the other restaurants.
I was expecting it to be like noticeably different because of who Thomas Keller is.
Exactly.
And it was still excellent, but I would have put it on the same level as the restaurant.
Yeah.
The main dining.
The caviar was amazing. The oysters were amazing. My gosh, what else? Oh, one thing that was kind of nice. We actually didn't even notice this, or the absence of it, until later in the cruise. And then it was like, oh, that's so nice. No photographers.
Oh, yes. No photographers walking around the tables asking if you want your photo. No, like, photo stations around the ship.
So there's no photo package. As far as we know. If there was, we missed it, and we literally never saw anybody getting photos.
Right.
And I get the impression this has to do with the clientele on Seabourn. That a lot of times when we're cruising, like when we're cruising with Disney or we're cruising with Princess, or other lines in the future, we're doing this to remember this really special occasion, because it's like not what we always get to do. I sort of get the impression a lot of the clientele on Seabourn, this is kind of normal. This is sort of just like another trip for them.
This is what they do.
Yeah, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a very good way. And so there's not the photographers, but we actually loved that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we didn't notice it until later on, and we were like, oh, it's actually kind of nice. And I mean, so there was a part of me that was a little bit disappointed because we did get fancy every night. And usually, formal night on cruises is when they pull out the photographers and the big backdrops and whatever. And there was none of that. So we just took our own photos, but I didn't miss it, really.
And the other thing I will say is that crew all over, if you had your camera out, and they would ask, do you want me to take your photo? Do you want me to take your photo? Do you want me to take your photo? And so there was a lot of people there to take your photo, but...
If you wanted it.
If you wanted it, but your dinner wasn't interrupted, and there wasn't that awkward, like, no, really, thanks, it's okay. Like,
weird,
no.
like, everybody leaning in, taking the weird photo.
Like, yeah, there was...
your dirty dishes.
There was none of that, which I actually surprisingly really liked.
Yeah.
Okay, enough about food?
I think so. I mean, oh God.
I will say the only thing I wish we were on the ship longer, because there were so many food options that I didn't get to try.
I agree.
We never got to go to Earth and Ocean, which is like an outside place. I don't even know that I ever ate from the pool deck, like the restaurant where you can get like hamburgers and hot dogs.
I don't think we did. We walked past it a couple of times.
Pizza.
We were like, oh, that looks good.
Never.
No.
Unbelievable.
Right. And I think part of that was because the food at the restaurant was so good.
Yeah.
That we never felt like we were bored and wanted to try something else. Like.
Yeah, I was wondering if I was gonna miss like chicken strips and fries. I never miss chicken strips and fries.
Right.
And again,
which we could have gotten from room service had you missed it.
This just goes to the fact that you can't compare it to a normal cruise. It's a different experience. And I didn't miss chicken strips and fries on this kind of an experience.
Right.
If I was with Disney or Princess,
absolutely,
I would miss chicken strips and fries. But on Seabourn, it's just a different experience. Okay, now we're gonna go to service. We have touched on this. This is one of the areas that I don't know. I spent over a dozen years in the hotel industry, training teams of people, opening hotels, closing hotels, like rebranding hotels, all of that kind of stuff. Whatever Seabourn does to train their people, don't change a darn thing.
And could you train everybody else? It was phenomenal. So we talked about our stateroom attendants. They were the best. But every single stateroom attendant that we walked past, big smile, hey, how you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good evening.
Yep. If we were like, can we get you anything? Like, as they're cleaning other people's rooms, like if they're out in their cart, like, is there anything else you guys need? Like, it was unbelievable.
I can genuinely say this, in a week, there was not one interaction, correct me if I'm wrong, there was not one interaction with any member of the crew on the Seabourn Odyssey that was anything less than perfect.
No. Every dinner at the restaurant, somebody would offer me their arm
and walk you to the table,
hold my chair out, tuck it in for me, place a napkin across the lap. Like, every single person in that restaurant, there was a ton of service people around the restaurant, and everybody was constantly doing something. They were filling your water, they were helping you sit, they were like, I mean, everybody was like, it was amazing.
Yeah, and
and always with smiles, and always so glad to see you.
So I'm glad you actually said that. This is one of the things that I noticed, because you may remember in previous cruise vlogs, there have been a couple experiences on different lines where I think the term we used, like, it felt like there was about to be a mutant. You know what I mean? Like, you just felt like the crew was super nice, super helpful, but it felt like maybe
an edge of unhappiness.
Mm-hmm. And we've even noticed in recent years, crew talking about, like, I'm super excited for my contract to end. I'm super excited to get home. I'm not sure if I'm coming back. I'm just like, almost like a little bit of just unhappiness.
Yeah.
Not a drop.
We asked all the same questions, like, how long has your contract been? How long have you been working for Seabourn? Have you worked with other cruise lines? Like, we asked all the same questions, and every answer was positive. And this is my X amount of contracts, or like, this is my second contract, this is my first contract, this is like,
and like, there's no way I'm not coming back.
Right.
And that was one of the things that I think was so interesting, is how many people that we talked to who would say, oh, I spent X amount of years with this with another line, and now I'm here, and like, I'm never giving it up. Like, I'm never not coming back.
Right. And there were so many that there was one guy that in like the welcome reception that was like, he said something about being with Seabourn for 3 months and 19 years. And
he was the captain.
Was it?
He was the captain.
And it was so funny. It was just like, all right.
Yeah, it was, not only was the service great, it felt like the people who provided the service were genuinely happy. And this is one of the things that we
wanted to be there.
This is one of the things that we used to try to train people to in hotels, that if, like, the guest will feel whatever you bring. Right? And so if you have had a rough day, the guest will feel that. Mm-hmm. There's just that kind of a feeling. And whatever Seabourn is doing, please don't change.
Right.
It was...
I never felt like a burden, and there have been some conversations that we've had with other crew members on other cruise lines that I'm just like, I'm sorry that I'm here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be more of a burden to you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel like that when I'm on vacation.
This was the best service, not only on a cruise line, at any resort we've stayed at. Mm-hmm. At any, I don't think there's an experience in life where we have had this level of service.
Agreed.
Literally, not one, there's not even anything I can suggest for them to do better. No. That's crazy.
Right. Having been in the hotel industry for as long as you were, like, there's nothing you would suggest that they do better.
Here's the thing. To this day, Sherri can attest to this, when I walk down corridors at hotels, I keep my finger on the wood paneling and I check to see if there's dust. Right. I just did it for so long that critiquing service and cleanliness is like in my blood at this point.
Yeah.
And I've never left an experience or a hotel or a resort or a cruise and said, I have no... Like, if I was a secret shopper, my paper to them would be blank.
I have nothing to add.
Just, you've got
it. And I think we talked about this in one of the vlogs, like walking outside to like a pool area. You would usually think that kind of in between from like the club where we were at and kind of that hallway going outside would kind of smell like chlorine, or, you know, because people are coming in from the pool.
Never.
It didn't. It smelled perfectly clean. It smelled like a new ship. Yeah. Everywhere you went.
Actually, let's we're going to jump down to that real quick, because ship overall, let's just jump into that if that's okay. this is the oldest ship in the Seabourn fleet. We touched on that. It's actually not going to be a part of the Seabourn fleet by the end of the summer.
Right.
It's moving to Japan. It's been sold, leased back to Seabourn. Even though it's the oldest ship, there was nothing on the ship that said that it was worn. At least that I could tell.
No. I mean, there were, just because I'm a detail person, sitting out on our balcony, there was like a little bit of rust in places. But
I did see that.
Outside on the balcony, like it's gonna happen because it's outside. It's getting rained on. It's getting spray from the ocean.
Yes.
Like that's gonna happen. But even that wasn't like out of control. Like
I did see that. That's true.
You could tell that it had been probably like fixed in the last year. But again, like it's a ship on the ocean, so it's gonna just wear and tear. But
yeah,
very well taken care of.
Wood, like the fresh varnish. Things seem freshly painted.
No stains in the carpet.
I was just gonna say I can't think of one stain in the carpet anywhere. It smelled clean. There was none of that ocean mildewy mustiness anywhere. It just the ship itself. I thought I was very, very impressed with. In fact, I remember thinking, if this is what the oldest ship in the fleet is like, what are the new ships in the fleet like?
Right.
I can't even imagine.
Right.
The size of the ship we loved. We were never more than a couple minutes away from, it felt like anything on the ship.
Yeah.
Which was
very nice.
You guys saw in law, we made a point to point this out. Elevators, like
empty every time.
You push a button, if it wasn't already on your floor, it would be there in a few seconds and empty.
Yeah.
Again, just the amount of people on a ship. It really is like the ship was designed for significantly more people than were on it, to make sure that everybody there was comfortable.
Yeah.
You never had to fight for a seat. You never had to fight for an elevator. You never had to wait in a line. You never had to, like, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else about the ship? Perfection. Golly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump back up to entertainment.
Ooh.
Okay. This was one of the things, as we mentioned in videos, that was the biggest question mark. So, before we went on this cruise, this will not surprise you or any of you, I did hours and hours and hours of research.
What?
Shocking. on Seabourn Odyssey, I watched every YouTube video I could find. But I actually was kind of surprised at the lack of information out there about certain aspects. It was hard to find menus. It was hard to find, like, what in the world does a day look like on a ship? What's their entertainment like? That kind of stuff.
Right.
We have been so spoiled with entertainment. We cruised Disney for our first 9 cruises.
With literal Broadway shows on board.
The height of entertainment. Right. We've cruised Princess, whose entertainment is not as good as Disney, but on the last cruise was much better.
Still excellent. Yeah.
Still excellent. And so this was a huge question mark to me. And it's a smaller ship. Like, obviously they're not doing Broadway, like, productions.
Right.
And so I was like, what in the world are they going to have? It was amazing.
It was so good. The singers were phenomenal. The dancers, I could just watch all day long.
Yeah.
Beautiful. There was a comedian on board. We got to hang out with her a few times. She's hysterical.
Yeah.
We got to hang out with her sister for a while.
Yeah. The guy who did Mauricio, who did 2 shows.
Yeah.
He is an award-winning Broadway actor.
Emmy winner. Yeah.
Emmy winner. Yep. He's been on Broadway. He's been leads on big Broadway plays, big national tours.
Yeah.
And
he was so good.
He might be the best Broadway-style vocalist I've ever heard on any show.
I think so too. Yeah. I was always, like, both shows that we went to of his, I was bummed when it was over. I was like, can we just keep going?
So it's not the big over-the-top productions.
Right.
But it is like the essence of those to a quality that, at least from what we saw, was even higher than what we're used to.
Yeah. So good.
It was so good. Some things around the ship, additional entertainment. There was live music in a lot of the venues at night.
Yep.
The musicians were always excellent. The bands were always great.
Yep. We got to chat with one of the musicians that was in the observation bar. He was good. I loved listening to him sing, and just chatting with him was fun. One
thing that we did notice, if you're like a frequent cruiser, you're used to entertainment like in a lot of the public areas. There was none of that
like
we saw.
Atrium or whatever.
Yeah. The entertainment was reserved in venues.
Yep.
And so there was never entertainment that we saw in Seabourn Square. The entertainment in Seabourn Square was puzzles.
Which I kind of like because, again, there was a quiet place to go.
Every space wasn't filled with noise.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly
I
right.
liked it. You had to go to the music if you wanted to sit in music, and we did. Like, we would go search it out, and every band on board was phenomenal, but it was nice to be able to go somewhere and know that there wasn't going to be live music there. Like in Seabourn Square.
It really does feel like this cruise was perfect for you.
Yeah.
Like, it was perfect for me. We'll talk about it. But, like, it feels like there was almost everything about this that was like, holy cow, this is, like, great for Sherri. Which is so funny, because if some of you will remember, this cruise was originally just going to be me.
I know.
And then you were like, I think I do want to try it out. Are you glad you did?
I am glad. Thank you for letting me crash.
You're welcome.
I am very glad. Yeah.
Yeah, without question. They did do a couple other enrichment talks, enrichment seminars. They had a lady on board that I didn't go to who is an author of a couple cookbooks. She has a dog that I think searches out truffles, I think. And so she was talking about, like, that kind of thing. One of the things Sherri and I were talking about was how difficult it must be to book entertainment on a Seabourn cruise.
Right. And that was one of the things that we were like, I wish that they had a little bit more, like, more Alaska focus or more whatever. But again, there were so many people on board that were not just there for this 1 week. They had been on board and they were staying on board.
There were people that I met that are cruising on the Seabourn Odyssey the entire Alaska season. They're staying on the ship until it goes to Japan for its final farewell, like, transfer to the new company. They're literally just doing what we did for a whole summer.
Which means that if every Tuesday they have the same talk and every Wednesday they have the same talk, those people are going to be bored to tears.
So they have to switch it up.
Right. So we might have just been on a week where it just wasn't as Alaska focused as what we would have preferred or whatever. Like, but again, they're planning for these people to be on board for a longer amount of time than what we were.
That's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to do it.
That's so crazy. You want to do like a whole summer? Yeah. Can you imagine? Holy cow. Pure luxury. So the entertainment, again, like with every area, exceeded our expectations significantly. It got to the point where we did not want to miss a show.
Yeah.
Because it was so good. It was like,
we knew it was going to be phenomenal, and we were like, nope, absolutely, we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really amazing. All right. You added the next one on here.
I did.
The mustard drill.
The mustard drill. So, there was... I have complaints about mustard drills in general.
Hold on. Pause. No, pause. You guys, I love traveling with Sherri. But this was our 13th cruise. One thing that I know to be true on every single cruise, and I just prepare myself for it now. Part of the first few hours of getting on the ship are going to be Sherri complaining about the mustard drill.
I understand that legally we have to do it. I get it. However, I am impressed with the way that Seabourn did it.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So you had to watch a little video in your room.
Yep.
And then the entire ship, had to go to the restaurant.
Okay, can you pause again? I want to think about this.
This is what I wanted to talk about.
Every person on the ship, all of the guests, we've all done it. We have huddled in a theater, or we have huddled out on deck. We're crammed like this, and it's that way around the entire ship. Every single guest on the Seabourn Odyssey fit in the restaurant, the one main dining restaurant.
So you was divided into quadrants.
Yep.
And on your key card, it had which quadrant you were in.
We were
in A2. And so they directed, like, when we first got there, we just sat down, not realizing that everybody on the ship was going to be there.
Yep.
And so they said, this is the quadrant for 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
If, look at your key card and go to your quadrant. And so we had to get up and move because we were in A3. So we went to A2.
Yep.
And they talked through all the same things like they usually do, kind of walking up and down the aisles.
You hear the horns.
And then that was it. And it was so easy.
And comfortable.
And again, like, everybody knows then to go to the restaurant. You don't have to be like, where is my muster station of the 87 on board? Like, you don't have to remember. It was so easy.
Muster drills so Sherri is an efficiency girl. That's one of the things you
And
know
muster
about her.
drills on most cruise lines are the least efficient thing on the history of cruise lines.
I think they're probably very efficient, but there's so many people in not a big space
My
that
brain
it just
can make it better.
But it just feels like there has to be a better way.
Yeah.
And on Seabourn, it was now what was interesting is it was almost so relaxed that it was like, were people doing anything? Like,
and then it was done. Like, they thanked us and they left, and then we were like,
oh, we're done? Like, oh, that was it?
oh, that's all.
Yeah, it was very simple.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Whoops, our battery died because we were yapping.
But
We're
good.
back. Do you have any other things you want to say about your muster drill?
No. I'm very impressed with the way that Seabourn did it. And I'm sure that it just seemed so very efficient because there were so few people on board.
Yes.
But it was very nice.
It was so funny, you guys. I'm telling you. Sherri on muster drill day, wow. Let's talk itinerary. So our itinerary was a week. We got on the ship in Vancouver, got off the ship in Juneau, which was very interesting. We only had, well, technically one at-sea day. It's that day from Vancouver to Ketchikan. And then we had the scenic cruising day in Glacier Bay, which is an at-sea day. And the rest of the days were port towns. I was a little bit concerned at first when I saw the itinerary because there are cruise lines that cruise Alaska who hit a lot of towns, but whose stop in port is really short, so you don't really have time to get out and experience
Or like
anything.
a weird time of the day, so like nothing's open.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're in port from 6 until 10. It's like,
Nothing opens till 11. Great.
yeah, it's like perfect. I loved her itinerary.
I did too.
I loved the fact that it went to some places that you don't always get to go. It went to Sitka, it went to Haines, which I thought...
The Indian Islands.
The Indian
Icy
Islands.
Strait Point.
Yeah, it was really great. I have no concerns about the itinerary. I want to talk about one aspect of the itinerary.
The tenders.
The tenders. So, did we only didn't tender in Icy Strait and Juneau.
Yeah.
Everything else was a tender port.
Yeah.
You hate.
I am not a fan of tenders.
So, I want to know, how was it on this? Was it an issue? Was it better? Did it hinder your experience at all?
It did not. And here's the thing. And again, it might just be because it's a smaller ship, and so they were able to get a little bit closer. They just couldn't actually dock at a lot of the places because they reserved those for the massive
Big ships. Yeah.
So the tenders were never very long. The seas were never very rough. We've had a couple of tenders that I don't know that I would ever get off that port again.
Because your tender experience was so bad.
The tender experience was so bad.
None of that this time.
None of that this time. And so, the tenders really didn't bother me at all.
Which I'm very thankful for. Tender ports don't bother me one bit. I'm getting off the ship no matter what.
And again, they had enough, they just used like the lifeboats from the ship, and they had enough going constantly that you never waited very long for the tenders.
Were we ever in a tender that was more than half full?
No.
And that's the thing, is like the tender's also lots of space.
Right.
You never felt crammed in
I'm
there.
thinking the one in Ketchikan, we waited for a little bit, but
it didn't fill up.
I think that it was a miscommunication.
Yep.
More because we were waiting for 15 more people who were actually already on the ship.
And so it was never an issue. Like it was
Right.
just easy. And again, as Sherri mentioned, the reason Seabourn tenders so much is that those dock spaces are reserved for the big ships, because the
Right.
big ships, well, they pay more because
more
there's
people.
more people, so
Yeah.
more tax, right? And so we tendered, which ended up being a non-issue.
It was a non-issue. Yeah,
They
it really
also,
wasn't bad at all.
for mobility issues, what I saw was that the Seabourn staff, again going back to the service thing, ensured that every person, regardless of accessibility and mobility issues, was safe and on and off very easily. I also loved that at every single tender port, they give you reusable bottles of water you can take with you into
And
port.
umbrellas.
To take
Towels.
for every person. It was just super nice. They greeted you. I think we said on one of the really cold days, you get back on the ship and right there they had mulled wine, hot wine.
Right.
It was just like it was just amazing.
Yeah.
The itinerary was great. We had lots of time in port, which was great.
Yeah, and there was, I think, Icy Strait Point was like the shortest.
We were there
amount
for
of
4
time.
hours.
But even that didn't feel like it was too short. I think.
It helped that we didn't have an excursion book. It might have felt too short if we didn't. But for us, remember, that day was the morning, it was the Indian Islands. And so in some ways, the focus of that day, Icy Strait Point was almost like an afterthought for us. Because the focus was the Zodiac trip.
It was a Zodiac trip.
And I want to talk about it. We documented a ton of it. We showed you guys a lot of it in the vlog. It was the part of the trip that I think you were, is this fair to say, of everything about this trip, that was the thing you were the most scared about?
Yep.
And
I was shaking.
Almost in tears. And so I know Sherri really
Which
well.
you can hear in the video.
I was just going to say, I know Sherri really well, and so I can hear it in her voice. So as I'm editing, I can hear the fact that the tears are right there.
Yeah.
As we're getting on.
Yeah.
Talk us through. Tell us. I want to know the Sherri thought about the Zodiac tour.
I was scared until we got off the Zodiac. But
So the whole tour.
yes, but I would do it again. And I think that I think part of it was like I was scared because there was a lot of unknown. I don't handle unknown real well. I was scared because I literally can fall over sitting down.
You're very clumsy.
I'm very clumsy, and I was talking to one of the Venture girls, and just we actually like pulled her aside and we were like, okay, tell me that this is okay, because like the day before we went, because I was like, because I'm terrified and I don't want to do it. And she was like, okay, what are you scared of? And she talked me through everything, and it was not as scary as I was expecting it to be. There is like a rope kind of along the bottom that you like tuck your feet in to kind of keep you like anchored. And then there's ropes on the side that you can like hang on to. I will say, I told Adam, like my legs were starting to cramp by the end of it because I tucked my feet in and pointed my toes up. So I was like, there is no way that even if we hit a wave or whatever, that I'm going backwards. Like, I'm not flying into the ocean because my feet are tucked. So I took precautions, but it was, and there was one time that we went out into like the open water and the water was rougher, and to get out there, he sped up the boat a little bit to get out there faster, and I probably bruised Adam's leg because I grabbed on and I was like, oh god, oh here we go. But it was still fun. It was beautiful. It was gosh, getting that close to the otters and the sea lions, like 4 feet away. They were right there. That was amazing. Like, I would do it again just for that. And we got rained on and it was fine. And we had like the sun peeked out for a minute and it was beautiful. And it was just like, I don't know. It was terrifying, but I would totally do it again.
Okay.
Your thoughts?
I intentionally didn't say anything because I wanted you guys to hear just from Sherri, because I know, here's what I know. There are a lot of you who watch this channel because there's something that you relate to maybe in either of us. And so maybe one of the things in Sherri is kind of that apprehensiveness to something like that. And we even saw it in some of the comments. Some people were like, good for you, never would have done it. And so I wanted you to hear from Sherri's experience. The reason I wanted to do this, here's the reality. We live in Alaska. That kind of experience, we technically could go book for less money in a town 2 hours away from us. We could get in a Zodiac and go out and see sea otters and see sea lions closer to home. But to me, this is one of the things that is so unique about Seabourn and other lines like it. I think Nat Geo does this, maybe a couple other ultra luxuries that Cruise Alaska do this, is the ability to say, you know what? We're going to stop right here in this remote, beautiful place. We're just going to stop right here.
We're going to drop anchor.
We're going to deploy a sea of kayaks for some of you, because some of you might want to go kayak. We're going to deploy a fleet of Zodiacs because some of you, we want to give you the opportunity to get really into and up close to Alaska. Like Sherri said, we've done lots of whale cruises. We've seen lots of sea lions before. We've seen lots of sea otters before. I have never seen them from just a few feet away, to the point where it's like literally I could have at one point reached out and touched them.
We didn't have to zoom in on our cameras.
So actually, the clips that you all saw were some of the worst clips of that whole experience, because when we were at the closest, I couldn't bring myself to film because I I was almost just in awe of like, can you believe we are experiencing
there was a huge piece of me that I didn't want to look at it through here.
Because it's right there.
I wanted to look at it right here. Like, it was 4 feet away from me.
Yeah.
Bobbing out of the water. Like, I was like, I don't want to look at it through my phone. I want to look at it. Like, it was amazing.
It really was.
So we didn't get really good pictures because we wanted to just experience it.
And we did. And so to me, it was not a cheap excursion, but I feel like I am 100% thrilled that we chose to do it.
And I do have mobility issues. So that was part of my concern. Like, am I going to be able to get in and out of this boat?
Yep.
They had people helping you every single step down, like holding your hand, walking you down, helping you back up. Like, there was nothing that I had to do on my own.
The Ventures team that was on board the Odyssey, this goes back to, and this is true about the whole crew, kudos to you all for making really a super adventurous kind of excursion feel really safe and really fun. It was just really, it could not have been better.
I agree.
My gosh, it was just unbelievable. So,
Ross was great. He was our guide.
He was super into rocks.
He was super into rocks.
So we made sure to point out lots of different like rock geology stuff.
I bet that boat over there doesn't know about this rock.
It's like, oh, look at those people over there looking for whales. Losers. We know about rocks.
We know about the rocks.
It was so fun, though.
It was a lot of fun.
And so, yeah, that was, to me, to be honest with you, as I think about the entire cruise, if I had to pick a moment that was the highlight, I think it might have been that.
It was pretty amazing to get that close.
I'll never forget it in my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, my whole life, I will remember that experience. I would book it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would do it again.
Golly.
The cost at first was like, oh, I don't know. But I would do it again.
It
was worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Okay, so that's itinerary. We already talked about ship overall. Let's talk a little bit about some of our. Well, let's go to this one next. Let's talk about the app first.
Okay.
Every cruise line now has an app. Princess has an app. Disney has an app. All of us have had good and frustrating experiences with apps on board. When they work, that's awesome. It seems like a lot of times they don't always work, which is frustrating. We didn't have. This is shocking. We didn't have a single issue with the Seabourn app.
I had one issue with the app.
What?
I didn't use it. Because I'm not used to actually being able to use the cruise line apps.
You're not used to them working?
Yes. And so I, like, I think that one of the things we were talking about was, like, the hours for the venues, like the sushi bar and the coffee bar and that kind of stuff. Like, all of those hours were posted on the app, which I never even thought to look at. I would walk to the coffee bar and be like, oh, it's closed. So I wish that they had like posted signs for those of us who don't use technology, because it never works.
But it worked.
But it always worked on Seabourn.
The app never crashed. The app was always updated.
Yeah.
The app, now I will say there was one thing that I
updated it daily with the menu.
I noticed it was a little bit off. There were some things that was like, oh, start at 6, ended up starting at 6:15. There was some like a little bit earlier, a little bit later. In fact, one of the couples we met on the cruise, they're real planners, and I really appreciated their feedback, because to them, like, if something says it's going to start at 6, it should start at 6. And
we're Alaskans, we're used to it.
And so, yeah, for us, it's like, it's 6:15. But it's like, it was off a little bit on time, but the hours of every venue was posted in there every single day. The menu of every restaurant was posted in there, and it was always updated. The entertainment, the shows, like, all of that stuff was right there and right on. And I think it's hilarious that...
I just did never look at it.
Because you're used to it not working.
I'm just used to the apps not really working or not having the information that I actually need, and so you'd go to the venue to find out what you needed to learn.
Surprisingly enough, this was the cruise that I needed the app the least, because it's small ship, less to do, all that kind of stuff.
You can easily get places.
Yeah, I wish the app worked as well on other cruise lines as it worked on Seabourn.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, honestly, my only complaint is that I just didn't use it because I'm not used to them actually working.
All right, so we're going to get into our addressing what some of our concerns going into the cruise were in a second. But I want to talk before that about something that, it was so nice. Let's talk about the end of the cruise bill. When Sherri and I cruise, Disney or Princess in the past, we normally have a bill at the end that is hundreds or over $1,000 in additional charges.
We always budget. Like,
yes.
we know that at the end of the cruise there's gonna be more than what we've already paid for the cruise.
Yep.
And so we kind of budget that into the cost of the cruise.
Well, not more than we paid for the cruise, but there's going to be a significant amount.
Right. Well, I mean, we paid for the cruise, and then there's going to be...
Oh, I see, yes. I thought you meant we were spending more on the cruise than we paid for the cruise.
That's not what I meant.
Can you imagine? Gosh. But you're used to that end of the cruise shock.
Yeah.
Because there's drinks, or there's drink packages, there's Wi-Fi,
sushi.
there's gratuity. You have to pay for sushi on Princess.
Or the extra restaurants, the upcharge restaurants.
There's just a lot of things that you have to pay for. And so you're used to these kind of big bills. At least we are, the way we travel. We got done with this cruise, an ultra luxury cruise. So in some ways, you kind of brace yourself for an ultra luxury response or results.
And honestly, we budgeted for it beforehand
Because we didn't know what to expect.
because we didn't know. Like they said, all inclusive, and we're like, mm-hmm.
They all say
So
that.
they all say that. So we're gonna like budget.
Be ready for whatever the bill is. So we get done with the ship and at the cruise, and it was unbelievable, you guys. So there were two things on our bill at the end. The first of them, one of your coworkers wanted a ship model for the Odyssey.
He collects ship models,
And they didn't.
and they didn't have them last time he cruised the Odyssey, and so he asked me to get one.
So we got him a ship model, and he reimbursed you.
Right.
So basically, that's gone.
That's a wash.
The only other thing on there, we made a donation to the crew fund. I think you might have seen that on day 2. That goes to the health, welfare benefit of the entire crew.
Yep. Not just the guest facing, but everybody.
A completely optional charge, just one that was important to us to make. And so that was on there.
That's it.
That's it. It would have been very possible for us to spend a week on an ultra luxury cruise line, having the best experience of our life, and got done and not had to pay a single dollar extra.
$0.
And I do want to say, that wasn't just, that end of the cruise bill wasn't because you're an employee.
No.
To be fair, that's everybody.
That's everybody. Right.
Yeah. That was insane.
Right.
I was that.
Because anything else that we would have done on board that would have cost, we would have had to pay for.
It made the experience so much more relaxed. And I think it's one of the reasons that we were talking about that this week on Seabourn was, for me, as relaxing as our 10 days in Fiji. Not quite for you, because you're a beach warm weather person. But if this cruise had been in warm weather...
We talked about that on the cruise. We want to do a Seabourn cruise in warm weather because I really wanted to be able to hang out by the pool. I wanted to be able to sit out on our veranda and enjoy it. It was kind of cold, so because it's Alaska in May, and so it was cold. I want to be able to enjoy the warmth. So I want to do the Seabourn in warm.
If that cruise we had was in warm weather, as relaxing as Fiji,
Yeah.
I agree. And part of the reason is that you just don't have to think about any of that stuff.
You don't have to think about anything.
Is this an upcharge? Did I budget for an upcharge? How much was this? How many drinks have I had? Have I reached the package on my drink limit? Okay, what's included in this package that I bought? Am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to have that? Well, I don't want to do this because that will add to this. None of that. Like, what do you want? We're here to make that all happen for you.
Right.
Like, here, have slippers. Oh, have jackets. What's that? You want a different kind of soap? Great, we'll give you a different kind of soap. You want a bath? Dope. Let's run you a bath.
With rose petals.
Yeah, like, what do you, like, the whole experience is just like, it takes away every choice, and I mean that in the best possible way.
Right.
Gosh.
It takes away every decision.
Perfect way to put it.
Choice. You
Decision.
have all of the choices. You don't have to make decisions.
Dang. Put that on a marketing campaign. Okay, so now let's talk about our concerns going into it. What?
Sorry, she was upside down.
Oh, Missy's out in the hallway. So we had some concerns going into this cruise. One of them were around just the fanciness of it.
Yeah. So we read and watched some blogs that like every night is formal night and jeans aren't allowed, and like every night is like
ultra
luxury. Like you have to dress up, and so we went out and bought a whole new wardrobe because neither one of us had enough fancy clothes.
But it wasn't something you were excited about.
I was nervous, and because again, like, we are on a budget, and so like even our fancy clothes were like from JCPenney, and like it wasn't like we didn't go to these super fancy places to get super fancy clothes. And so there was a part of me going into it that was just like, we're gonna look like the Clampetts, like on trying to show up in Beverly Hills. Like people are gonna know immediately we don't belong.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that.
Even once?
No.
Same.
In fact, I'm still curious to know if this is because it was Alaska cruise, and so maybe a little bit more casual than other cruises, but we were among the best dressed. Like, there was a handful of people that dressed up, like actually dressed up for dinner. Most people just didn't. Like, you know, nobody was dressed like...
No one was in shorts and t-shirts.
Shorts and a t-shirt, but like, nobody really like dressed up, like suit jacket and bow tie.
Except for me.
Except for this guy. And you had somebody like pull you aside and was like, "You are the best dressed on board." Which I think was true. Like, it was fun. We actually had fun dressing up. Like,
we had so much fun to the point that as we're filming this last night, we actually missed it so much that we were like, you know what? We want to go get dressed up. And so we
do a date night here in town.
You put a dress on, I put a suit on with a bow tie, and we went and did it all again because it was almost like there's a part of that cruise that changed us in a really good way.
It was just fun to like get dressed up and go to a fancy dinner.
Gosh. Yeah.
So we did last night.
Really amazing. Really
I
amazing.
know.
So it was just so great. The other thing was that we didn't know with the clientele if we would fit in.
Right.
You know, that we're not CEO. Because part of it was like, we just didn't know what to expect.
Right.
Is this going to be all business owners and CEOs and executives and all that kind of stuff? And like, hi, we're here.
Hi.
Like, you know what I mean? And it was like, are we even going to fit in? We met the nicest people.
Yeah.
So kind, so
there was
sweet.
Nobody that was like
entitled
or mean or
no, and
crotchety. Like, everybody was so nice.
And this shows a bit of my bias. I expected that.
I kind of did too.
I'm like, oh, the ultra wealthy on an ultra luxury cruise, it's going to be a lot of like
looking down their noses at us.
It wasn't that at all.
It wasn't that at all. And I was concerned about being among a very small handful of people that maybe had visible tattoos or
colored hair,
or facial piercings. I was not.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people. There were a few people on board with colored hair. There were a lot of people with visible tattoos, not just guests.
Yeah, crew as well, which
I loved and was very impressed with. I did talk to one of the guys who made my coffee, and he was liking my ear. These are cuffs. Actually, they're not even piercings, but I have a few piercings. But like the cuffs, he was commenting on them because he had to take all of his piercings out. Because I guess he did have a bunch in his ears, and he did have to take those out. But lots of visible tattoos. Like, it just, I don't know. I was surprised.
Yeah, we were not as out of place as we expected.
Right.
And that just added to the fact that I have a hair in my mouth. That just added to the fact that
the whole experience, that
we felt so comfortable.
I never felt out of place.
It felt like, oh, we fit here.
Yeah.
Which we completely expected to not fit.
Right.
And we did. There were people our age. There was so much of it that was really great. I will say, because I know a lot of people found us through Disney, we didn't see, again, this may be Alaska, we didn't see any families with young kids. So we saw some families with like, adult kids, with teenagers.
I don't know if there's just no kids allowed. I don't know.
I have literally no idea.
But there were no children on board.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. But it was truly, truly, truly unbelievable.
Yes. I can't wait to do it again.
So tell me about that. Do you want to do it again?
I do.
Okay.
I definitely do. I would cruise the exact same itinerary again. But I also would like to cruise Seabourn in a warm climate where I can enjoy the pool decks in our veranda.
Here's a question. Did it ruin you for other cruise lines?
No. Here's the thing.
Same.
Because it's so completely different. You don't stay in a castle and expect it to be a hotel. It's just going to be a different experience. And so even if it's a very nice hotel, it's still going to be a different experience.
It's not a castle.
It's not a castle. And so it's just... It did not ruin me for other cruise lines. I think that you just know what to expect going into other cruise lines. And you know what to expect going into Seabourn. And they are different things.
I think the castle illustration is so perfect. It's a perfect way to put it, because it's like, you know what?
My mom told me that.
There's a place for Hampton Inns. I love staying at Hampton Inn.
There's a place for Hiltons.
There's a place for Hiltons.
Right.
There's a place for all these different tiers. And then there's a place where it's like every now and then, maybe you get an opportunity to stay in a castle, and that's what this felt like.
Right.
I will say, if money was no object, if we win the Powerball, probably only cruise in Seabourn. I'll be very honest. Like, if money's no object, that's probably what we would choose to do, because it was such an extreme, like, such a better experience. Yeah. It really was just absolutely amazing. So it did not ruin us for other cruise lines. We're excited to cruise other cruise lines, to continue to do that, to experience new cruise lines, to go back to cruise lines that we love, but also to have this castle experience again in the future.
Right, and I think it's like I would equate it to Fiji. That was what felt like probably a once in a lifetime sort of thing, but I would absolutely do it again if I had the opportunity.
Yeah, 100% agree. You guys, 10 out of 10 is too low. We don't have enough thumbs up for as much as we loved it. I do know that sometimes there can be sticker shock when you look at different Seabourn things. I will say, though, one of the things that we noticed from looking through their website, obviously we mentioned this in the day one, we got to do this cruise because you work for the company. Right. Seabourn's under kind of the Holland America Princess Seabourn umbrella that you work for. Right. But there are cruises, if you look at Seabourn, I'll use Alaska as an example, there's some earlier season, some late season cruises that honestly are not that much more expensive than Disney, especially if you're talking concierge. Right. And if you're looking for something a little bit different, give it a try. It is it's the kind of thing that if you love cruising, I really do wish every person could try it once.
Right, because it's just such an elevated experience. It's just such an elevated experience.
I'm so glad that we got to bring you guys along on this experience. One thing that was really interesting to me, we've had lots of people watch videos, or watch our videos over the last week. But the thing that stands out to me the most is in 8.5 years, almost 9 years on YouTube, we've never had a series of videos where the watch time was as long. This was the most watched, as far as time goes, week that we've had since we started YouTube. Right. And I think the reason is that we all know a little bit what to expect with Disney, right? There's thousands of Disney cruise vlogs out there. We all know what to expect on these other cruise lines. Seabourn, there was still some what is that experience even like? Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons that you guys watched for so long, is that it was just such a different experience. And so, you guys, we put out... So I think that I had almost 8 hours of footage from our week with Seabourn. I think it ended up being 5.5 hours of vlogs over the last week. And so many of you, thousands of you, spent hours with us over the last week. Thank you.
Thank you.
It means the world to us that you guys would do that. I hope that this review has been helpful as we've touched into different things. Yeah. To wrap it up, perfection.
Yeah. I mean, again, our only complaint was that we didn't use the app as often as we probably should have.
I did.
You did.
You didn't.
I didn't, because I didn't think about it. Because I'm not used to being able to, use the app.
I'm not used to things working, so I didn't use it. I was like, that's my favorite.
Right. But it's really hard to try to find something to complain about. They're just...
It feels like you're almost nitpicking. If you're looking for things, it's almost like minuscule kind of things.
Right. You're looking for things.
No, I actually do have a big thing. Oh. I do have a big thing.
Oh, no.
It's the fact that since we've been home, we have not had sushi every night before dinner.
We haven't had sushi at all since we got home.
That's so spoiled.
That's so sad.
Nobody has offered to draw me a bath. Missy has never once put rose petals. She is laying upside down sleeping, though. Friends, we love you so much. We're so glad you're part of our community. We have our first kind of back home vlog coming up Friday on our channel. It's actually a really fun one. We take a hike to a waterfall
that you've
never been to. We see a moose. We take you to a local market. We saw some, as Sherri called them, mountain sheep.
Mountain goats or doll sheep or mountain sheep.
Thanks for being part of our community. To the hundreds of you guys who have joined over this vlog series, I hope you stick around. Yeah. I'm glad you loved our Seabourn videos. I hope you like our normal life, because it's just kind of, it's what we've chosen to share with the internet. Right. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next LeggLife video.